Hey there, rebels! Welcome back to the channel. Alright, so picture this. You've just been laid off. You have 6 kids to feed, bills piling up, and no clue what's next. You could throw a pity party, but that's not the route John Kavanaugh took. Instead, he did what most people wouldn't even think twice about. He jumped into the junk removal business. Wait, what? Junk removal? Yeah, that's exactly what I said too. But stay with me, because this story is going to show you just how crazy and unpredictable success can be when you're willing to get a little dirty, take a leap of faith, and hustle. It's 2020, and the world has just flipped upside down. The shamdemic, haha, y'all know the deal, I have to watch what I say, but back to the story, had swept the globe, and people are scrambling to adjust. John and his wife had never imagined that they'd be part of the chaos. Then, the unexpected hit. His wife got laid off from her job right when she was 5 months pregnant with their 6th child. The weight of that news hit like a ton of bricks. They had just bought a new house. Their savings weren't exactly ready to take the punch that life had just thrown their way. And now, without her 6-figure salary, John felt the pressure rising. As a dad, everything he had worked for now felt threatened. The bills weren't going to pay themselves, and there was no backup plan. 6 kids to feed, a mortgage to meet, and 0 income coming in. John could feel his anxiety creeping in, especially as he was staying up late, staring at the ceiling. It was one of those sleepless nights that made you ask the big questions. How are we going to make it? What's next for us? As the hours passed, he found himself scrolling aimlessly through YouTube, a temporary escape from the worry gnawing at his mind. But then something unexpected happened. He stumbled across a video titled, "How to Start a Junk Removal Business." Now, I know what you're thinking. Junk removal? That doesn't sound like a way to make a living, let alone a way out of the mess he was in. But something in that video clicked. The guy in the video wasn't some big shot CEO with a Silicon Valley background. No, this guy was just a regular person like John, a blue-collar worker who had taken matters into his own hands. He was tired of working long hours in a warehouse, hated the grind, and decided to break free. And that resonated with John. What if this was the answer? It sounded crazy, but in his gut, John felt a spark. Could this be the lifeline they needed? John and his wife decided they'd start small. Old truck? Check. Hey, trailer? Check. And all in, they had about $1,000. But here's the kicker. They didn't have fancy equipment, tons of knowledge, or big investors backing them. They just had determination. Their very first job? A huge cottonwood tree that some other company had cut down but never removed. It was on an 80-year-old widow's property. The widow had been quoted $6,000 to remove the tree. Now, John was new to the business, and $6,000 sounded way out of his league, so he did what any smart entrepreneur would do. He negotiated. He asked the widow what she could afford, and when she said $2,000, John said, "Deal." Was it a risky decision? You bet. But the real lesson here, service. He worked for 2 solid weeks, calling in favors from his father-in-law and using whatever tools he could find to chop up that tree. By the time it was over, the job felt like a victory, even though they barely made any profit. But what they did get was experience, and that's priceless. Fast forward to today, $20,000 a month in revenue, and it all started with an old truck, a trailer, and a willingness to work for cheap in the beginning. But here's the kicker. John hasn't quit his full-time job yet. That's right, he's still pulling a full-time gig while running his junk removal business as a side hustle. Now, if you're wondering why the heck hasn't he quit his day job already, here's the secret. John's playing the long game. His goal isn't just to pay the bills, it's to build a legacy, a family business that he can hand down to his kids. He doesn't take a lot of money out of the business. Instead, he reinvests everything into new equipment, marketing, and growing the company. But here's where it gets even better. The junk removal business isn't just about hauling trash. John learned how to flip junk. he doesn't just charge for hauling. He makes extra money by recycling metal and reselling things he finds along the way. For example, he found a $3,000 magnifying machine hidden in a barn, cleaned it up, and flipped it for $700. Talk about turning trash into treasure. All right, let's talk about how John's been able to hit $20,000 a month while working full-time. Networking, that's the magic word. If you're not networking, you're not growing. John didn't rely on fancy ads or SEO. We'll get to that disaster in a second. He used Facebook community pages, real estate agents, and local networking groups. One conversation led to another, and soon, John found himself with steady clients and a growing reputation. And here's the kicker: 70% of John's business still comes from networking and referrals. Why? Because he understood something important about business. It's not just about the transaction, it's about the relationship. So he's out there, making connections, bringing coffee and cookies to the people who help him. Every conversation is an opportunity. Okay, but let's be real. Running a side hustle is hard work. So how does John juggle everything? 6 kids, a full-time job, a growing business. His answer? Organization. Every morning, John and his wife have a 10-minute coffee meeting to lay out the day's schedule. He's got the structure to keep the ship sailing smoothly. And get this, he doesn't even do his own bookkeeping. His wife handles that, and they've got a CPA who manages the finances. John's learned that delegation is key to balancing everything. Here's another pro tip from John. Keep your overhead low. They didn't go into debt to expand. Instead, they focused on making cash flow work for them. Their model is simple: cash only. That's right, they don't rely on loans or debt. And it's been a game changer. John doesn't have to worry about loan repayments, interest rates, or risking everything if the business hits a bump. Instead, he builds organically, reinvesting every penny into growth. As John's story shows, the best opportunities can come from the most unexpected places. Junk removal, not glamorous, not sexy, but it works. And guess what? It's not just about making money. It's about building something that lasts. John's side hustle isn't just about pulling in $20,000 a month. It's about creating something bigger, a business that he can pass down to his kids, something they can grow and make their own. That's legacy building. And it all started with a junk truck, some elbow grease, and a willingness to try something totally unexpected. If you've been sitting on the fence about starting a side hustle, start now. You don't need a ton of money, fancy tools, or even a perfect plan. You just need to take action. The road may be messy, but it's full of opportunity if you're willing to jump in. So, what's your side hustle going to be? Drop a comment below, and let's see what crazy ideas you've got. And don't forget to hit that like button if you're ready to stop playing small and start taking action. Catch you in the next one.